Hi, everybody. My name is Chris. I am here today to talk with Kuzzat. We're going to chat a little bit about his backstory, talking about how he came here to America, and then how he ultimately funded Saidia. So that's what we're talking about today. Hi, Kuzzat. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing fantastic. I'd like to start this off by taking perhaps a unique approach. So for me, when I was growing up, Disney movies were a big part of how I learned my moral ethics, my fundamentals for how to behave in society, what and how I value things, right? I was wondering, when you were a kid, what kind of influences did you have in terms of media, in terms of movies, in terms of music, in terms of books that influenced and guided your values and how you perceive the world?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Actually, I grew up in communism. Mm-hmm. Communism per se, it's China. China occupied our homeland in 1949. Chinese Liberation Army came to East Turkistan, where they call Xinjiang now. So it was all communist propaganda, no free information or freedom of speech. So whatever Chinese government allow, you will have access to those. So it was very limited experience. But at some point, I think the Hollywood movies start coming in. So we kind of start understanding what's going on the outside. So when I was a kid, I watched this, is that Home Alone?
Yeah.
That was the movie made me love America. It was like, I see these huge houses, very like that time, like fancy, fashionable dresses that kids are wearing. Yeah. I felt like this is so cool. I think that was one of the movie planted the seed in my heart that I want to come to United States. Mm. And obviously, as I grow up, at some point, one of the animation that I loved was Lion King.
Mm. My favorite too.
My favorite, right? Yeah. Lion King. But the thing is, I did not understand back then. I think when you look at the history, you see lots of Lion King stories, right? Mm. If the story of Moses is very inspiring. Mm-hmm. He grew up in Pharaoh's place and he had to escape at some point, but he's coming back as a prophet and saving his people, right? Telling Pharaoh, let my people go. But the story of his coming back is a Lion King story, right? So, obviously Simba, his uncle, what is his name?
Scar.
Scar? Yeah. Scar. I was going to say, who's that asshole's name? Scar. Scar killed Mufasa, right? Mm-hmm. And claiming that for today's terminology, Scar called Simba terrorist. Mm-hmm. You killed your dad, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what China is doing to my people. China said Kuzzat is terrorist, or people like Uyghurs are terrorists. Now, what Simba does, Simba escapes. Like, I escaped too. It became my life. Mm-hmm. And many people's life in the world. People are displaced from their country. Who wants to leave the place they were born? And you love your childhood. You love everything is memory. You don't want to leave there unless you're forced to. Now, this Hakuna Matata stuff. You become refugees. You saved by this beautiful land. You go to a new place, and you start a new life until you recognize. What is the purpose of life? What is that monkeys, guys? Like this,
Timon and Pumbaa.
Rafi?
Oh, Rafiki.
Rafiki, right? He's such a scholar, such a spiritual leader. Yeah. He comes to Simba and reminds him what he's about. If you remember the scene that from the water, right? Simba sees his dad, Mufasa, and Mufasa reminded Simba who is he, his identity. And he went back, he fought, and he's back as a Lion King again. I think one of the inspiring, the reason that people love Simba's story could go to other way. For example, he could have good life, Hakuna Matata life. Right. He would just disappear from the forest. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't become inspirational. Nobody buys it. I think Simba is the most loved story in the world. Mm-hmm. The reason is not because of Hakuna Matata. Mm-hmm. Is because of his story of coming back. Right. I think he killed the Scar.
He did.
Killed the Scar. Yeah. So for me, Scar is communism, is dictatorship, is those regimes are killing innocent people, right? So I think subliminally, those movie made huge impact in my life. Obviously, that could be one of the most inspiring stories that until today, it inspires me. It's a mandatory movie for my kids to watch.
I'm sure they don't mind.
That's the thing. Other than that, I think it's always communist propaganda,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's difficult.
So I think the Simba story is great. It certainly is a great reflection of your story and the story of so many people that we know and that have come to Saidio. When we're speaking of this of the communist propaganda, when did you start seeing through it? What were some of the first signs that you saw? Do you remember thinking, hey, there's something wrong here. There's something not right?
So it's about interest in human nature, right? People who have kids, they know that the best way to ask your kids to not do something is tell them what to do. For example, if they say, why don't you read book? They're going to be like, I don't want to read book anymore, right? Why don't you do the homework? Just like if you force them to do something, they just don't want to do. It's a beautiful human nature. So when I was a kid, we were forced to learn communist propaganda, how our land was forever from the beginning of time, part of China, the Turkic identity does not exist. Muhammad is the person who invented Islam. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. Islam is a disease, all this stuff. So the more that Communist Party push, the more that psychologically, automatically you just resist. It could be my family, it could be my dad, it could be my aunt. She's a very famous person as well, back home. But I think when I was around 10, 12 years old, I started recognizing that China occupied our nation and they are committing crimes against my people and we want to be free at some point. I think that was around 12 years old. I understood that that's going to be something in my life will guide me through. And today, unfortunately, I wish that I was not born there. I wish that I have different identity so I don't have to struggle that much. But, you cannot choose where you're born, what's your color, what family you like. I was just born there. So though that it's painful, but I still love my people. I still think that do something for the people that don't have freedom to speak up. One of the most beautiful things about in America is that is the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping in line with the Simba story, as you mentioned, Scar, he killed Mufasa, right? That was it. Simba had to go, right? What was that moment in your life? What was that moment where you realized, okay, I have to go?
So the problem is in China, there's no rule of law, right? So the things works in the way that Communist Party wants. So now in East Turkistan, which is where they call Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, when a Uyghur person decided to speak up for his people or her people, not only that person, their family will be destroyed. Their family will be labeled as enemy of state. So unfortunately, my aunt, she was one of the very prominent Uyghur business person. And back then she was top 10 wealthy person in China. And, she was a member of Chinese People's Congress or something like that. I don't remember. And at some point she got very influential, right? So she decided to speak up for Uyghur people. She was like, first thing that she spoke up against is one-child policy. By the name, her name is Rabia Qadir. We can put her picture on the screen. So she decided to speak up against one-child policy because, what her thing is this, like, listen, I understand one-child policy. It's beautiful, there's population control. I got it. But Uyghur people, like 2% of Chinese population? I mean, we're not Chinese though, but when you count the billion people, we're not that significant. So we don't have the overpopulated problem. China should allow us to have more kids, not kill our babies in the wombs, right? Not sterilize our women. So that made her enemy of state, right? So Chinese Communist Party cracked down on our family when I was around 14 years old. So she went to jail and most adults got arrested. Nobody told me to do so, but I remember when she was arrested, we had the 3 golden days. Why would I call that? I think this is the first time I'm sharing this on public, I believe I was whether 14 or 15. I'm sorry, I need to go back to look at Wikipedia. When was she arrested? But the thing is, she was gone. Adults were gone, and I know that she was collected lots of information. Who are the Uyghurs that are executed by Chinese government? All this top secret stuff. So in our house in Urumqi, we call it like Sanshanza, whatever. It's a Rabia Qadr mall. It's a mall.
Yeah.
So she had her office in there too. So for 3 days, I was burning documents. Like as a kid, it's crazy. I don't know, like, it's like incredible.
No one told you to do that, huh?
No. I was just finding documents from her office, from her house. I was burning documents, and after 3 days, the Chinese intelligence came with a bunch of like literally very highly trained Chinese individuals. Speaking Uyghur is not the easy deal for them, but they were speaking fluent Uyghur, and they were searching our house. I remember the guy was literally taking the books from the bookshelf and opening one by one.
Wow.
And seeing what's inside the book. So that was my childhood. And then, after that, like our family was declared an enemy of state. People were scared to talk to us, from very famous and, prominent family to the family that is kind of, I would not say segregated, but how do you call it? It's like your family, nobody can talk to your family, like
Outcast. In a way.
outcast family.
Right.
And lots of troubles and like that. So when I was I graduated from Urumqi 14th High School. I love my school. And right now it's called Urumqi High School, by the way. So I don't know, like I was like one of the regular guy. I was not that great in class. I was just like, but somehow I got into medical college. I think my score got higher in Chinese version of SAT. And I got into medical college. And later I heard from somebody that my archive went to the medical college police office and saying that this person, in Chinese they call 重点观众对象, means that 对象 is objective, I guess, the person that is important to watch, or something like that. Right. Translation. So obviously they did not forget that I was part of the criminalized family.
Right.
In China. So it was first year. One day I came to the classroom. I was like, boys were gone. I'm sitting with all the girls. And normally, it's Chinese class, it's not like it's so fun. So my normal routine is I grab my books, right? Like any kind of books I want, like medicine, something like that, Ibn Sina, great, interesting things. So I sit in the back. Teacher was teach like their stuff. I will read my book. I would just show up in the class, do whatever I want. I see this boys is gone. I was like, what the hell, man? Oh, okay. Probably they went to play soccer. And the thing is, I got used to it, right? People don't want to talk to you. People don't want to associate themselves to you because they don't want to be in trouble. So I understand. It's like, I wouldn't even talk to someone that if I'm going to get in trouble. And then at that time, I thought, okay, these guys were going to play soccer and they didn't call me because I'm obviously a terrorist family. It was okay, what can I do? That was my thought. And that night, a guy, he came from a village to a medical school. He called me. He said, Kuzzat, what do you want? I was like, what do you mean? I don't want anything. He was like, what do you want from me? I was like, I don't want anything from you. He said, because of you, I was getting kicked out from the school. Do you know that? I was like, what did I do, man? He's like, did you know that my dad is a farmer? He saved, in the United States, farmers are rich, they live in big house, but in China, the lowest level of society is farmer.
Right.
So he's like, my dad is a farmer. For the rest of his life, he was saving me to send me to college.
Yeah.
Okay. And he said, I was arrested and other kids were arrested. And the police were interrogating us, and they were asking, what is our association to you, Kuzzat? Like, what do you know about him? All this stuff. I was like, I just showed up for a party with you. I didn't do anything with you.
Yeah.
And that time I asked him if everybody else was going through the same thing. And he's like, yeah, all these kids. So here's the thing, right? So back then, though the Chinese Communist Party was, they cracked down in our family, but we were not poor. We had multiple restaurants, things like that. So I was like, okay, I don't want to put these people in trouble because of me. So I said, okay, I need to leave. So I left the school and I started running our restaurant. Meanwhile, I was working to get out of the country because one of the things that I believed was at some point, I felt that I was going to get killed by the Chinese government. It's just a matter of time. So the only way to survive is escape.
Yeah. How old were you at this time?
Like 20 years old.
20. Okay.
So 20 to 21, right? So there's a good lesson to learn from here, right? I talked to a couple of my relatives. I was like sharing my idea of, oh, I want to escape China. So my relatives are the closest people to me. And what they told me is this is impossible. And this is like, Chinese government is watching us. There's no way that we can get out. This is impossible. My thought was dumb and straightforward, right? In a sense, I was like, if somebody says something is impossible, like, do you have contract from God saying that this is not going to happen? Well, how do you know without taking a shot, right? And one more thing is like, what I'm going to lose taking a shot, right? I'm going to take a shot. So I took a shot. And I think Chinese government made a mistake. Somehow they issued my passport. I think it has something to do with their political study. At that time, they came up with this 三个代表重要思想, which is like every Chinese dictator they want to come with their own ideology. Mao has this red book, so everybody wants to follow that to impose their greatness to the nation. So everybody needs to learn. So at that time, I believe the passport office in Urumqi, they have 8 hours of work. So they have to do 4 hours political study. And the 8 hours of work, they have to put in the 4 hours. So obviously the due diligence, background check, maybe was just losing. I think this was the greatest blessing in my life.
Yeah.
So I think my passport application slipped through that process and they issued passport to me.
Oh, wow.
So I grabbed my passport. I was like, this is crazy, right? I was so scared. And then I think later on, the Chinese government found that they actually issued this passport. So they busted my house. I was living in an apartment.
Yeah.
I believe 7, 8 officers came and they were like, hey, Kuzzat, you think that America will save your life? We're a great nation, all these things. Like, interesting. The thing is this, right? I didn't have that much idea of coming to the United States that time. But the police officers, like intelligence officers, are coming to my house and they're saying, America, whatever, as if they saw that today I'm in America trying to F with them.
Yeah, that just instantly put you there.
Like, I don't know. But the thing is, the thing is that's what they said. I was like, well, I said, I love China, whatever, right? So obviously I had to survive. So so they were searching for the passport in my house. Obviously I hid it elsewhere. And they took me to my dad's house. They searched in there. So at that time, my cousin called Radio Free Asia and reporters, things like that in the United States. And my aunt that time, she came out of the jail under the Bush administration. She was in the United States and she was pretty famous, connected to very important people. And I think that could be the reason they didn't kill me or didn't make it a big deal out of it. So I'm still a kid, 21 years old. What I'm going to threat? I just minding my own business. So I think after the interrogation, they did say, they were going to kill me, things like that. But the thing is, after the interrogation, that I made police officer laugh. The reason I made him laugh is I was saying how much I love China, how much, Chinese Communist Party is something that I dream to be part of one day. I hate my aunt because she's terrorist, whatever.
Whatever you have to
Bro,
say.
Listen, I need to survive, right?
Yep.
So the guy know that I was bullshitting. He was laughing. He was laughing and he just let me go. After that, few months, I didn't go outside. I was just staying home because I know that they were tracking us and I recognized the car that was following us. So I just literally stayed home and didn't go outside, ordered the food. And I think it was after 2 months, I think it was October, I bought a ticket to Beijing once they stopped tracking me. I went to the airport. I flew from Urumqi to Beijing. Nothing happened. Thank God, I don't know, man. That's why you need to take a shot.
Yeah.
Nobody believed, right? So I came to Beijing. Obviously, the local, authority will know. So what I did is every day I was calling my dad, we're looking for a restaurant. Because Uyghur people were, our food, right? We have amazing food.
Amazing, yeah.
So we have this a big Uyghur food industry in China. And, if you go to Shanghai, Beijing, in every major city, you will have like amazing Uyghur restaurants making tons of money. It's a good business. So it's very naturally what we do. And I was calling my dad. I know they were tapping our phone. I was like, Dad, I'm looking for restaurants. Today we're negotiating the chairs. Tomorrow we're negotiating tables. We're negotiating the rent. We're looking for the furnitures. And then I called my aunt there's a Shen woman in Beijing. It's a place in Beijing. There's a metro station, and you have this phone on the street that you can insert a card and call. So I inserted card, so I called the United States. I called my aunt, and she called somebody in Turkey. They called a Turkish embassy in Beijing, and they're like, come in, we're going to give you a passport, and we're going to give you a visa. So went there, got my visa, and one last thing was, actually, we somehow unofficially bribed the individual to take a look on the custom, because, it's not because I knew anything. It's like when you watch movie, this Hollywood movies,
right.
They go through the airport security check, they look at the screen and all these faces.
Yeah.
So I was like, am I one of that person? They're going to stop me in the airport?
Yeah.
So they checked, they're like, it came clean. My name was not there. So we bought a ticket. So look at my strategy. I'm saying strategy in sense of making fun of myself. So I thought, if I purchase a ticket instead of direct flight from Beijing to Istanbul, if I go to Dubai and Istanbul, it's less obvious.
Yeah.
Literally, it's on the ticket, man. I mean, anyway, it was so dumb. I thought that was a good strategy. So I bought a ticket. So, but by the way, my brother was there too. So my brother has no political issue whatsoever. But, he passed the security check, custom. He got his stamp. And I handed my passport to this Chinese officer, and she looked at it, and she stamped.
Ooh.
And I took my passport. I was taking a step, just go, and another Chinese officer was running. They stopped us there. I was like, "What are you doing? Don't you know that he's Xinjiangren? Xinjiangren means literally Uyghur." And give me your passport. Like, he took my passport. He said, sit here. I had this black North Face, I guess, like black huge backpack.
Yeah.
I put it on the floor. I sit it on top. I was sitting in there. I see like hundreds of people in line. I was like, okay, gone. Today could be my last day. So interesting things, right? Listen, I prayed in there. What are you going to do? Nobody can help you, right? Nobody can help you. Nobody. We're talking about Chinese government. I prayed there. I said, God, if today I got arrested, I have no complaint. What I'm complaining to God, God doesn't owe me anything, right? So it's like, I'm not going to complain. I'll accept. But if you let me go, I will do good things for the rest of my life. I will be a good person. I will be a useful person for my people. I want to do good things for sake of you. I made a prayer, and I think it felt like 45 minutes. I don't know if it's 45 minutes or not. This Chinese guy came, police. He's like, oh, thanks for waiting. We're sorry that, for the inconvenience. Your visa looked like a little weird. Like, we just want to take a look, and you're fine. You go.
Oh, wow. Just like that.
I was just like, I said, "Xie, thank you." And I just took my bag. I was in the plane. And when the plane is taking off, I was like, when the hell they're going to drag it, pull it back? I was so scared.
Yeah.
I thought that they were going to take it back. And then we landed in Dubai. And from Dubai, I came to Istanbul in October 29, 2005. Was the first time that I felt like a free man, that somebody will not kill me tonight. That was a day.
Yeah.
That I was free from communism.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff. What was even your thoughts? Like, what were you like? Did you truly believe it? Did you feel it, or were you still a little bit, paranoid?
The paranoid things is like I don't know, is that called like a something?
Post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah.
Like whatever. It's like a long name. But until a very long time, when somebody knocked the door, my heartbeat goes up. Like I'm nervous, right? See, here's the thing. I think I'm kind of guy, I can fight the enemy if needed. But that thing is like, it haunts you, Sometimes you see in a dream, Chinese police are arresting you. Sometimes when people knocking the door, automatically your heartbeat goes up. Sometimes you see the police car passing by, automatically you feel like you're nervous. It's not a conscious thing. My brain is okay, but my body is reacting it. So I don't know how to explain that, right? So that was my thing. It continued for many years, even when I came to the United States. But now I think I'm over. I'm fine because I'm U.S. citizen.
There you go.
So when I was in Turkey, I was very happy, but I couldn't imagine the life that I would build today, the business I would build today, the things that we could achieve. I mean, it's not like this. Some people achieve something is they have great vision. I don't know. Let's go with the flow. I was a kid at that time.